Hello everyone, welcome. I am Dr. Dilsora Fozilova. In this lecture, we will continue our conversation about religious cults. And this specific lecture is about one of the case studies I mentioned in the previous lecture. In the previous lecture, I tried to give you an overview of deviant religious movements or deviant religious cults and sects. We made a distinction between cults and sects. One of them, that sects being, still part of that religion, but kind of developing distinct identity because of their different interpretation of the same scriptures or different understanding of that religion. They just kind of like emerge as part of that religion and usually stays within the norms of that religion. On the other hand, religious cults can formulate themselves that as separate from the religious group or mainstream religious group, and they can be really different in their identity, their ideology, what they believe in, what they want to do can be totally different than the mainstream religion. So today we're going to talk about a branch Davidians with the leadership of David Koresh, and let's see how this cult makes us understand religious, deviant religious subcultures. So this is David Koresh himself. He is just, brought people together. And a little bit about David Koresh. He was born from a very young mother. His mom was 15 or 16 when she had David. And David was from the young age very inquisitive. According to his mom, that he just took down all these bikes and stuff and learned by putting them back together. And she kind of just draw parallel between how he developed this cult as, just learning a Bible and, taking it down because he could see some, just mistakes and errors in Bible. So David Koresh was 12 years old when he totally learned Bible, and everybody was actually amazed how fast he learned Bible. So the branch Davidians, under the leadership of David Koresh, became one of the well-known religious cults, especially following the tragic Waco siege in 1993. So their story provides critical insight into the nature of religious deviance, the role of charismatic leadership, and conflict between religious freedom and state authority. As we discussed in our last lecture, there can be a conflict between religious cults and religious sects and the government, mainstream society and the government. In this case, all of those the definitions we had towards cults and sects was just could be observed. David was very charismatic leader. He even defined what people can eat and what they cannot eat. He punished people. He, that demanded people to punish their own children from the young age, from the age of 8 months, I think they said, so they can be doing what the parents say right away without any hesitation. It just kind of reminds you the very authoritarian or totalitarian control over people. The origins of branch Davidians. The branch Davidians were an offshoot of the Seventh-day Adventist Church and trace their origins to the 1930s under the leadership of Victor Hutaf, who established the Davidian movement. So David just was one of the self-proclaimed prophets. That he called himself a sheep, that when he was younger, that God talked to him and told him that he was chosen for this role. So he really believed in that and then made other people believe. So the movement was based on literal interpretation of the Bible. He, as I mentioned, that 12 ages age of 12, he learned Bible, especially the prophecies in the book of Revelation. So he studied it so much and then could reflect on them and tell people how this, that the mainstream religion wasn't right. What he had was actually the truth. That's all religions claim, emphasizing the imminent return of Christ. And this David guy was based on him, was a Christ. David Koresh was born in Vernon-Howell, became the leader of the branch Davidians in 1980s. And as a young man, he was quite lonely and isolated person. And, he drove an old truck and really didn't get along with people. He was just the lone wolf, and according to his own mother. And finally, he found his moment and made people believe in him. Actually, when he studied the Bible from young age, people kind of liked what they see in him, and he was learned Bible so fast, and people amazed, and that led slowly to for him to claim that he's a chosen prophet and Lamb of God mentioned in the book of Revelation. He claimed that that he was divinely chosen to become a leader or lead his followers through the in time. So he would take people from, this bad society who just got mixed up and confused to a right place, right? Koresh had a charismatic leadership style. He attracted people. He brought them together. He told them what they should do and say and how live their lives. And he knew Bible very well. Therefore, Bible helped him to, talk very confidently. Therefore, when he was talking, the between the lines of Bible, of course, they can, attract people more easily. So their main beliefs and practices were that Koresh thought that the end of the world was near and the followers should, just do what he says because he's the chosen to survive, and everybody dies in society. The people who, that follows him or with him will survive, and they will be the establishment of God's kingdom on earth. So all those kind of stuff. So, and the practices they did was Koresh justified having multiple wives, including underage girls. Actually, he impregnates a woman, 17 years old woman, I believe, based on his interpretations of scriptures. He told people that divine approval to have children with selected women in the group, seeing as part of his role, like he just could have relationship with the chosen people in his this group, and he could have children with them. Communal living in isolation. The group lived communally at their compound near Waco, Texas, called Mount Carmel, and increasingly distanced themselves from the outside world, reinforcing their sense of separation in spiritual purity. So now you can see these people not only believe in certain ideology that is, coming from the Bible and interpretation of Bible, their practice was totally different than the mainstream society. Now they were living together, and this leader is claiming that he can choose girls from the group and be with them and have children with them, and that is okay because the Bible says so, that his interpretation of Bible says so. It just sounds to me like, interpretation of the Bible that however pleases him. However, that's my thinking. And then this group got into conflict with the state because it was just kind of breaking the regulations of the state. And simply speaking, the Braj Davidians stockpiling of weapons and rumors of child abuse brought them to the attention of the law enforcement, particularly the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and the FBI. So when you see these names, that that is just really serious. Now people will take them very seriously and investigate them, right? In 1993, February 28, and these groups take the Mount Carmel compound, and then there was a gun battle between them. There was deaths there. I think the FBI then led a 51-day standoff, which ended in a catastrophic fire and engulfed the compound on April 1993, resulting the deaths of 76 Braj Davidians, including Koresh. So it didn't end well. That the government, all these organizations, that FBI and Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms Bureau, those ones were and are quite serious organizations. When the information they get just gets their attention, so that's against the rules and regulations of the country, then they will investigate them. And finally, what happened was they were, there was a fire in their place that called, what's the name of that place? Compound. So Mount Carmel compound. So there was a fire and many of the members of this place, the group died. So the Waco Siege highlights the tension between the state interests and public safety. Now, if you think about their practices, that that having multiple wives within that group and living in the isolated place, and there is all kinds of claims of child abuse and stuff, and also, and they are the claims of they are the ones that will be saved and the rest of the world will be in trouble. Those are just kind of stuff that gets to the government attention. And then, of course, there is always tension between the state and this kind of groups. Some have argued that the state's response was heavy-handed, exasperated the conflict, while others see it as necessary to prevent them. So there are different perspectives on that. Perhaps there was no need to, no need to go that harsh. Maybe there was a way of preventing this fire and dying of 76 people in that group. However, I don't know exactly the situations where I did not review the documents of this group. This small short lectures based on your reading, you can see in the reading that there was certainly all different kinds of idea about this, taking this group down. Moral panic and media representation. Certainly media coverage of the Braj Davidians fueled the state's views on them and increased public, moral panic in society, portraying the group as dangerous fanatics. But can we say them, were they dangerous fanatics? Well, there is elements of fanaticism, and then some people were living, they actually traveled from Asia to come and join David's group. So that can be extreme in some sense. So there is all kinds of controversies in this branch and the government's handling of the Waco siege, and it was criticized. They were like, the government could do better, with many questions whether the FBI was too aggressive, they didn't know how to handle the situation, including the use of tear gas and armored vehicles and contributing to the deadly fire. And there was is this a justifiable action by the government? can it be viewed as the religious persecution or justified intervention? Our opinions about this can be also different. Some people view that government's actions as violation of the religious freedom. Well, religious freedom, we need to understand that when people have religious organizations, they have their they have their rights as a religious organization. Sometimes, if their religious beliefs or religious practices conflict with existing constitutions and rules and regulations, that can be taken to a court. For example, there was cases of, why people couldn't go to work in certain times because they had the religious celebrations. In that cases, now they should be allowed to take a day off in that days, for example. So in this case, this was against regulations and against the constitution that more than one wife is actually not allowed living in the compound and having that sex with underage girls viewed as breaking the law. So that's why intervention seen as necessary at that point. However, there can be different opinions about that, and I would like to know what you think. Legacy and radicalization. Certainly, Waco siege became a symbol of anti-government and military movements, and many of whom view it as events of proof of government overreact and religious persecution. So there is all different kinds of interpretation of the case. However, what we learn from this is that Branch Davidians served as a powerful case study in sociology of deviant, religious deviance. So it just helps us to understand many elements exists in this religious deviance, like charismatic leadership and all kinds of belief systems, ideologies involved with these cults and sects, isolation from mainstream society, the deviant acts of just not doing what is norm in society. In this case, for example, polygamy and all different kind of belief systems, and having underage girls as partners. And in Waco siege, in this case, raises a question about power balance between the state and religious groups. So who decides how deviant they were? Because our regulations and laws and constitution is socially constructed, there can be an argument about, there is the other ways of living is also can be justified at certain times, right? So this is the kind of opinions and understanding that we got from this reading here. Let me know if you have any questions, and this is just a short review of your reading. All right, have a great day. Bye-bye.